You will not believe what recently happened to us, and that's the reason why I've been gone for so long. I gotta tell you how we got hacked. Our entire bank account was gone. And in this video, this vlog, I want to talk about it so maybe this doesn't happen to you, because you will not believe that it happened. I want to say this is serious, okay? I've had lots of friends get hacked. I've had a friend lose his entire YouTube Facebook page, 100 grand to a fraudulent bank account. I know a guy that his wife, somebody created a fake ID, walked in the bank, walked out with 10 grand. Our bank accounts got completely cleaned out and there was nothing we could do about it, and had to sit there and fight. I've had other friends have their bank accounts hacked, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 just gone because the bank said, you know what, not our problem. We think you didn't safeguard your password. So your bank is not as safe as you think it is. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. So recently, me, Samantha, the whole family, little Jack, we all went down to Cocoa Beach for the 4th of July. And it was a long weekend, and we figured we would go spend it at a timeshare our family had. So we drove all the way down to Cocoa Beach. We got to go past the really cool cruise ships, and little Jack was excited to be going on a big adventure. And we got to the condo. We got checked in. We were all ready to embark on a weekend of lazy river and Disney World. It was little Jack's first chance to see Toy Story Land, you know, down at Disney World, Magic Kingdom, whole 9 yards. You know, it was a long weekend, and that's how these things always start. These bad guys, they always like to pick a big, long weekend, and I'll get to the reason why in a second. But we were getting our stuff out of the car. We were going into the hotel room, and Samantha started getting dings on her phone that money was leaving her account. Not just some, but all of it. And then I got a notification that our mutual account was getting liquidated. And as a YouTuber, person that does a lot of stuff on the internet, I spend a lot of time trying to protect myself, my family from the internet. This is something that I really want a lot of people to understand, that there are a lot of dangers on the internet, and I feel like a lot of people don't pay attention to it or are very naive of the internet and how dangerous it is. I spend hours, countless hours, trying to figure out how to deter hackers. Why? Because my YouTube channel produces money, it's on the internet, and it goes to a bank account, and they can divert that money. You know, they do it all the time. They do it to YouTubers all the time, do it to people on Facebook, they do it to, you know, anything that produces a reoccurring revenue on the internet. This is just hacking 101. So I spent a lot of time protecting myself, but I didn't really think about protecting Samantha, and I'll get into this later on, but this is something that was always in the back of my mind, but nobody really listened to me that it was possible until it happened. The hardest part about making this video is talking about exactly what happened, because you know, when the bank freezes everything and it investigates this, they're always investigating you. So you got to be very careful about how you portray to the internet, and then how I don't want anybody else to have this happen to them, so I don't really want to teach people how to do this. So when Samantha started seeing the money going out of their account, I immediately called the bank, and I wanted to authenticate from that moment on, and like, this happened all within a matter of like 10 minutes, and there was no way to stop it. I called the bank, and I got a supervisor on the line like immediately and told him to freeze all my cash accounts. And I don't want to talk about which bank it is, because that just leads to it's another nest of worms of people would know who I bank with, and like, it's just not needed for this story. I called and had my stuff immediately frozen and got a supervisor on the phone. Samantha's money was leaving her account, and then I had seen that our mutual account had been completely liquidated. Samantha did not have $1 to her name when we were in Cocoa Beach. And I want everybody to kind of think about, what if you woke up tomorrow and your cards didn't work, your bank didn't work? We just got down here to Cocoa Beach. There's a lot of surfers down there. But it's wild. I gotta tell y'all what actually happened to us since we've been down here. Samantha got hacked, our bank accounts, and somebody cleared out all of it. Spent all afternoon yesterday on the phone with the fraud department. And this is where she was at the moment. Car payment couldn't get paid. If you have a mortgage, you're not going to be able to pay for it. The bank freezes everything, locks it completely down, and your card doesn't work. None of those accounts worked. I'll talk about how I protect from this later. But she was staring at zero money, and if she would have been on this vacation by herself, she would have been dead in the water, no way to get home, no money, and all of her savings were gone. It was gone, and then the bank, so what was happening then was the bank was able to tell me that the hackers, the professional group of hackers, knew enough about her and about me to convince the bank that they were her, and they reset her password. And then once they reset the password, there was these things called compromised bank accounts or zombie accounts. This is kind of high level stuff, but there's a lot of people out there that don't even know they're hacked. They've been hacked, nothing's been moved, nobody even knows that their password is compromised. And they take these zombie accounts, and then when they decide to activate them, they just start moving money internally in these institutions from account to account to account to account until they can get it out of the system, right? So this was basically on like Thursday, Friday, and then they knew on 4th of July weekend that they had until Tuesday of the next week before the banks were even going to do anything really. So once they started bouncing the money from account to account, once they got like 5 accounts down, they would just wire it out of that institution and it's gone. See you later. And it was shocking that it took me 2 hours, because once you talk to like a supervisor of what's going on, they divert you to fraud, right? And when you go to the fraud department, it was a 2.5 hour wait just to talk to a fraud representative. And that's when I was wondering, was this institution or multiple institutions experiencing a high level of this happening at one time? And, the news will never tell you when this stuff is happening. The banks will never tell you, because if people knew how weak and fragile the banking network and institutional network of money is, they would be scared to death. And this is when I really realized how fragile this whole world was. When the bank had basically stopped the money like 3 accounts down, and he told me he had frozen it. But it was up to us to deal with the fraud department to launch an investigation on whether we could get it back. It was not going to just come back to us. We had to prove that it wasn't our fault for it to come back, even though they knew that it had been moved to zombie accounts because they could watch it bounce. So these zombie accounts were most likely somebody's bank account. This is the way I look at it, because they wouldn't tell me any more than they had to. This is the bank now. I think they had been compromised by their passwords for a while, and these people had no idea that their bank account was compromised, and then the hackers used their bank accounts to move the money, and then they had somewhere in a foreign country that they just whisked it away. So once you talk to fraud, she was very not nice, even after a 2.5 hour wait. They get the bare minimum and worth of information from you, and then they tell you, well, call us back next Wednesday. This was like Thursday. Call us back next Wednesday, and maybe we can get you a new account and get going, and we'll wait on the funds. They could come back to you, and then we'll talk about it then. So we waited until the next Wednesday, and they gave her a new account, which they just took her old debit card and put it on her new account, and the money came back in. They said they would give us the money back. I want to add one more thing to this. And I've gone down the rabbit hole on this. The scammers will try to do the same thing to you. These guys that will call you, these ladies that'll call you, they'll do the exact same thing the fraud department will do. They will talk just like them, act just like them. The scammer will try to postpone you to the next week because they want the funds to clear. And during this entire period, the scammer is going to try to kick the can down the road. They're going to try to kick it the next week, and they're going to say they'll call you back next week and they will figure it out. The bank is going to do the exact same thing. Call us back next week when the banks are open. Call us back next week. Meanwhile, if you listen to the scammer, because if you don't know exactly what to do in this moment, the window will escape you. We called within a minute of money starting to be moved. If you happen to be talking to the scammer thinking it's the bank, they will try to put you on hold, kick you to next week, and then the funds clear out of your account, and then it's over. Okay? I've watched a lot of videos on this. Since a lot of this scamming started to happen to us, this is not exactly what happened to us. I don't want to exactly go into detail, but this is something that can happen to you. This exact scenario. There's lots of scenarios they'll run on you, and they'll try different ones at different times. They will shotgun you with a bunch of different type of things, and if they think you're susceptible to it, they'll keep hammering you with it. I've woke up many a days where all my emails, the two-factor identification was going off, and they were trying to get around my passwords. They were trying to get around my encryption. And it would be like, there was one day I got hit with probably 15, 20 different emails from all different angles, trying to get past my two-factor identification on my YouTube channel, on my bank accounts, on my emails. That's why wire fraud is so bad. If you're in the real estate world like I am, make sure that you authenticate with where the money is going before you send it, and you make sure you use a number not given to you to authenticate it, because all this happens. So like, you have to call the bank from the number of the bank, like on the back of your debit card. Call that number to authenticate that you're actually talking to the bank, because they're going to call you from a number that registers as the bank, because they've spoofed it, because they're using a really intricate way of portraying the phone number. In our case, they knew enough about us from random information all over the internet to convince the bank that this could happen. So they'll do a multiple complex thing against you. If you're a high net worth individual, this is how they're going to do it. Strongly get a VPN. I advise you to have layers on layers on layers, because all you're going to do is slow these people down. If they really want you, they're going to get you if it's on the internet. I want to add too, when you call the bank, odds are the bank is not going to know what to tell you. You're probably going to deal with somebody that has never dealt with this before. If you have spoken to a scammer and they didn't just hack you, the bank is going to assume you're in the wrong and it was your fault. And they're going to not know more than the scammer or what to do that you actually were hacked. I strongly advise you, whatever scenario is being played out on you, talk to a supervisor, demand a supervisor at the bank, because they will have more of an in-depth experience on how to stop this. But the front line person at the call center is not going to know what's going on. Especially, and I've experienced this with business accounts. They have not ever dealt personally with large amounts of money or personally with situations like this, and you can get brushed off very easy. Do not allow yourself to get brushed off. Make sure you press hard, that you're going to get protected and you're talking to the right person. Because if you get brushed off, and in scenario one that I've been trying to talk about, the scammer is hoping you get brushed off, right? He's going to brush you off. He's going to play the same game the bank plays to you. They're really good, okay? And in any of these situations, make sure that you do not just say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am to the banker. You press hard and you pitch fit because you need answers. And the bank will just try to get you off and say it'll be okay. No, this is your money now. Be serious. But what was wild was that it was still under investigation. And that's also why I don't want to go into crazy details about it right now. I'm just trying to have a broad picture of what's going on. That even when it goes back into your account, they can still take it back from you, which is nuts. Because, technically when the money is in the bank, it's not your money, it's the bank's money, and you've got an IOU that it's yours, right? And when I started to learn about how these hackers and these scammers basically operate, it was mind-bending how they were able to do this. And these banks have this happen to them all the time, right? The scammers and the fraudulent guys know more about the institution than the people working at the call-in centers for $15 an hour. Like, these guys are good. And there's multiple ways of doing it. And I'll talk about a few. Because I've kind of alluded to how they knew enough about us. One, they will go through the internet and they will figure out your social security number, which you can find out in probably 10 minutes. They know your address, they know your date of birth, they know everything about you. Then they will spoof your bank. And it's interesting how they know which bank you operate at. They will spoof your bank with, they'll take the phone number, and they will run an auto dialer or a bot dialer. You know how you get those text messages all the time of people saying, "Hey, how are you? Are you going to swim practice?" And then you respond, "Well, I don't have swim practice." They got you, okay? They do the same thing with your voice. When you get that phone call that you answer, that nobody's on the other end and it's just quiet, and you keep saying hello and you keep trying to talk. Well, they're basically recording your voice to use later and use an AI voice to talk to the bank. Like, there's so many ways for them to do this, and I'm just giving you a large, vague picture of how this works. And let's say they auto bot dial you, right? Like, they send you some text messages from the bank, and it says money's been moved in your account. Did you do this, yes or no? Just like those real fraud texts come in, and if you respond, they'll call you. And they only need a couple of things. They really are going to try to authenticate your birth date, and then not your password, your code word. You know how the bank always asks for your code word before they'll talk to you? Well, that's all they need. Okay, and so, like, let's say you call the fraud department and they're like, "Hey, what is your code word? Can you authenticate that for me?" And you go, Tweety Bird. And they're like, "Okay, so-and-so, nice talking to you. What can I do for you?" Well, that's what they're going to do to you. So you think when that bank calls from an authenticated bank number that you authenticate your code word and your birth date so you can talk to them, which that's how they always do when you call them. That's all they need, because what next they're going to do to you is they're going to be on the phone with the bank, and everything you say to them, they tell the bank. And then the bank is going to change your password, and by this time, they'll put you on hold while they do this. And then once they get your password changed, they just start moving money from your account. Off it goes. And if you're not in a spot to basically figure this out, or stop it, have two phones on you so you can call the bank and authenticate it, you're screwed. Okay, you're done. It's over. And the money's gone, and then the bank's going to say, "Well, you changed your password," or "You did this," and you're going to be like, "No, you didn't." Okay, so that's one way they can do it. Another way is most people put their passwords and notes, okay, on their phone. Not password protected, not encrypted, not nothing. And they get it some way through your phone, hacking it, blah, 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 or on your computer. Some people just keep their passwords laying around, like most people I know. But all they really need is the things they can get off the internet: your social security number, your phone number, your date of birth, like some personal information about you, your bank account numbers, which are on every check that floats everywhere all the time. They could have hacked another database like Target or the gas company or whatever, and they got your banking information, and then they just convinced the bank. Sometimes they will hack the phone company, like your cell phone company, and this is where it gets scary, okay? And they convince the cable company, or the, you know, Verizon, Alltel, whoever, that representative. All you got to do is convince a $15 an hour dude, $8 an hour person that you are who you are, and they change your phone information, or they do a SIM swap and they take over your phone. There's so many ways of doing this, and like my point of this video and this vlog is to tell you to protect your family, okay? I was protecting myself, and I didn't think to protect Samantha. You know, a lot of times people won't listen to you, especially like being on the internet. I did try to talk to Samantha about these things, and she really wouldn't listen to me. I tried to talk to my family about these things. They really won't listen to me until it happens to them, and they realize that they got to get savvy. Let me tell you, the internet is the equivalent of walking out in the middle of the interstate and not get hit by a truck, okay? And that is banking on the internet. That is having a digital footprint on the internet. And you've really got to learn how to be savvy if you're going to use it, or somebody will use it against you. And this is going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. That's why elder fraud is so bad. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so what I'm going to talk about next is how to protect yourself, okay? And I'm going to try to do this as fast as possible, okay? One, never use a debit card ever, okay? I don't care what any of the gurus, I don't care what Dave Ramsey says, because I guarantee you he's not doing it either. I don't care what any of the bank says. I don't care what they say. Do not use a credit card. There's a really good video by the Catch Me If You Can guy on it. Your debit card carries all your banking information on it. And as you travel around the world here using it, it is tally forthed everywhere, okay? And if you use a credit card and it gets hacked, they will just send you another credit card. If you use a debit card and your banking information gets out there and it gets hacked, it's you fighting the bank. And the bank does not have to give you your money back. Like, they don't. They could say, sorry, we've deemed that this is your fault and we're not going to insure it. We're not going to give it back to you. And that's a scary part, okay? So the one way to protect that is don't use a debit card. I got my debit card hacked one day and it never even left the safe. It was still in the envelope and it got hacked. And that shows you there's a problem with these banking institutions and how these cards are made. And this is from somebody that gets my credit card hacked probably once every few months. There's a running joke around here: when my card gets declined, it's been hacked and there's already one on the way, because for some reason my credit cards always get hacked. And I think it has to do with my footprint on the internet and whoever's watching. All your personal IDs, especially if you've been in the military, okay? If you were a DOD personnel, 2014, back to 2009, probably up to 2019, when that Chinese hack happened, all your personal information is out there. If you've had a top secret clearance, it is on the internet, okay? Your stuff is on the internet. It's probably somewhere in Ukraine or the Eastern Bloc or China or, you know, somewhere in Asia, and somebody has your information. And if it becomes worth enough, they will use it against you, and you probably don't even know it. I definitely have some LifeLock. Two-factor identification on every password you use, especially the bank. Never write your bank password anywhere that's digital and can touch the internet. It is on a piece of paper somewhere. Got to be old school, just like Battlestar Galactica, because the bots will get you. If you have a crypto password, That thing, like, you better have your own keys, okay? Learn on how to do that. Talk to everybody in your family about digital security. My mom, I've roughed her up so many times for falling for fake websites and fake phone calls. They will call your parents, they will call your friends and family and tell you you're hurt and you got to wire them money because you're in a Mexican jail. These things happen. This is the world we live in. If you pay bills online, have a bank account with very little money in it that you pay bills online. And if it gets hacked, you're prepared for that money to just sit there until you figure it out and you get your money back, okay? Just do that. All your big money is in a separate account, not touching this account. If you're traveling, travel with multiple institutions. Credit card from this bank, credit card from this bank. A debit card from this bank, credit card from this bank. And the reason why I said debit card is if you're somewhere and you've got to have cash, that's the only way you can do it unless you have a credit card that allows you to cash advance from an ATM. I strongly suggest you keep a $20 or $100 bill stashed somewhere to where you can get back, and make sure you have a phone number of at least 2 people in your pocket somewhere that's not digital, okay? Because you could wake up and everything digital you have is shut off. And I know this sounds kind of crazy, but we just experienced it, so it can totally happen to you. Also, and this is the last thing I want to talk about, I don't even know if I should put this out there, but I'm going to if you've gotten this far into the video. If you are DoD military personnel, if you're law enforcement, if you're a public figure, if any of these, most of your local governments will allow you to take your name off your deed. It'll allow you to take your name off the tax collector, and you will get bleached from the internet, okay, for their roles, supervisor of elections, all those things. I strongly suggest you to do that and make sure you keep all the documents away from the internet, and unless you go down there, they will say you don't exist. And I had to explain to some government officials that this was allowed, and I got a memorandum saying that I was allowed to do this. Because if you were in the global war on terrorism, you are a target, and your information's out there and it can be used against you. Also remember, if you're a target and your wife is, your marriage certificate will be used against you for her information, her social security number, her credit. And if you're not using your credit, freeze it, okay? This is the world we live in, and I wanted to do this video. I know it was long, but it's a serious video. And I want anybody that watched this to understand I tried to brief you as much as possible. Get smart, because this can happen. I know another YouTuber that his wife somebody had a fake ID made of his wife, and they went in the bank. They went in the bank and walked out with 10 grand. Had another friend that had his entire YouTube channel or his Facebook page taken, and the money was $100,000 went to another bank until they could get Facebook to reverse the bank account and bring it back, but the money had already been paid out. So this stuff is real, and I just wanted to put it out there. So I hope this helped, and I've been wanting to do this video for a while. I didn't really know how to do it, so there it is. See you guys later.